welcome back to Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. I am super excited about today's episode. I've got a wonderful, fantastic guest that I've known for quite some time. But before we get into all that, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a review. Go ahead to the YouTube channel, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcast, wherever you're at. If you get value out of this, please give us a thumbs up. And also share it with somebody who you might think gets value from this, because we're all the time trying to deliver on many fronts with Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. How about an intro, man? That was a hell of an intro. So, guys, listen, I'm always excited about my guests because I handpick my guests. I don't have a team that calls people to try to get you out here, or I literally think about who I want to have a conversation with or who I want to highlight all their good shit that they do in the world. And I pick them. I call them up. I ask them if they want to come out and have a conversation with me. Sometimes it's awkward. Most of the time it's not. But I'm not this big, huge podcaster who's podcasting like everybody does that I hear and I know about. No, I just go straight out here, off the cuff, every week and just do my damn thing. And I choose who I want to talk to. And this young lady is somebody that I met roughly about 6 years ago, give or take. She had come into my gym. She was a college kid here on the Eastern Shore. She's from across the bridge in Maryland, the Baltimore area. And she came in and her story's pretty cool, pretty inspiring, you know what I mean? But she was just this kind of little nerdy college kid who didn't really know where she was going and what she wanted to do, and super over analytical of herself, a lot of pressure on herself. And then what she's done with herself in just a short amount of time has been nothing but impressive. And I just, she asked to be on the show. I didn't ask her. And I was like, what are we going to talk about? And she whipped off right off the top of her head, this is what she's going to do. And then I just thought like how empowering it would be to have her. So without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Taylor Hughes on the show.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So that was like the introduction of how much, hey, this is my dog and stuff like that. But really, you know what I mean? I think what's really cool is, for those that don't know, Taylor, you are a lawyer.
Yes.
Right? You just graduated law school. Was it last May?
I walked in May, but I graduated in December.
Yes. Yep. So I know this because I was invited to this thing. Like, I'm so flattered to be there, and it was such an awesome event. But yeah, so you're a lawyer. You're fresh in the game. You know what I mean? You're starting from the ground up. And, I think it's really cool to preface that, because why we talked about that in the beginning and introduced what you do. That wasn't really what you were when you first started.
Not
right?
at all. It was a completely different field. I didn't even think about law school.
Yeah.
I didn't even really know what it took to be a lawyer.
You were trying to be a doctor at the time.
I went to Salisbury with the hopes of going to med school. I mean, I was told all my life, like, my daughter's going to be a doctor. Taylor, you're going to go to med school. You're going to be a doctor. So I went in, but I love science. So I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Biology, chemistry minor, loved my classes. But then, all of a sudden I was just like, it doesn't feel right to me. Yeah. And kind of found my way to law school. So, I mean, we can get into it.
Well, yeah, we will. Well, that's interesting because, so when I met Taylor and met you, talking to everyone here, it was interesting because, here I've got this young, beautiful college kid coming in. And you know what I mean? When you came in, we were still downstairs, if I'm not mistaken. We had just moved over to Pure Fitness. So it's been over 6 years now, and I think about it. And, you came in, you wanted to do kickboxing. You thought that combat sports would kind of help you out. And that's what we did. You were a personal training client of mine when I was taking them, but it was specifically on kickboxing, not like lifting weights and doing all that stuff. And you were probably one of the most surprisingly self-conscious people that I've met. Definitely the most self-conscious person in your age group that I met. And, you would just really, really struggle with confidence and struggled with, like, decision-making, body dysmorphia, who you thought of yourself. At the time, there was a ton of pressure on you by your parents. There was a ton of pressure on you, what you're supposed to do the rest of your life. I think, and I can't remember, but I think you were kind of in like a little weird relationship type of situation, or you got into one or got out of one, or just kind of like I knew you weren't very experienced in love and stuff like that then. And but there was like a kind of a fling that you had going on that was stuff with things. So you had all these dynamics that were going on. And then COVID hit, you know what I mean? So that had threw a monkey wrench into everybody's plans. Plus you were in the medical field and stuff like that. So, you know, talk to us about that version of you. Like, talk to us about, you know, who that was coming in to a combat sports gym, predominantly male dominant, into an area where you knew nobody. And, you know, like, I mean, I'll tell you right now, fucking combat sports people, a lot of them are weird.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're bad people. There's a lot of them are strange. You know what I mean? And you found out that our weird was a little different weird. But
Yeah, like I could have done soccer or something.
So many different things, right? So tell us about that girl.
Right. So
Young lady, excuse me.
I now think, like, after hearing all of that, I really came from, you know, I came from a Catholic background, went a really small community. Grew up Catholic, went to an all girls Catholic high school, went to a small Catholic elementary school, middle school, and I just went to soccer, you know, on the weekends. And going into Salisbury, I think I didn't have an identity coming into Salisbury. I was kind of told, you know, my whole life, okay, you're going to be a doctor when you grow up. You know, and I was surrounded by like people. I really didn't know who I was. And coming into Salisbury, I really struggled, you know, making new friends, and then also just being inundated with all these different cultures now, different religions, different types of people from all over, you know, the state, Eastern Shore, really not too many different people come to Salisbury from far away.
Well, and let's preface this, like, the Eastern Shore is a different world itself.
It is.
Like, one of my friends, he posted a video about just how the whole Mid-Atlantic region, you know, your Philly, Maryland, Virginia type of area is just full of just so many quote unquote tough guys, and everybody, and he's not just referring to men, like everybody's just got a chip on their shoulder. Everybody's just like so like sensitive, in my opinion. And you kind of got to need that. You kind of need that to survive. He was talking about, shout out to Mike Stewart. You know, I'm trying to get his ass on here too. But when you come to the Eastern Shore, that's like an even more exaggerated type of version.
You have to know, you have to live here to know what we're talking about.
And then not to, you know, not to cut you off, but then being like inundated from that your world across the bridge, then going into college. So it's kind of like you're a college kid surrounded by like all of these melting pots of just like shorebilly. So, you know,
like,
I'm sorry.
You're right. Like I didn't know who I was. And I think that's where my lack of self-confidence came from. And I didn't even know it at the time, that I really didn't have like my own identity. I kind of just latched on to what people like told me that I was going to be, what I thought I should be. But I loved coming to Salisbury. I loved the school in general, but I really did struggle while I was here with like friendships, with relationships. I mean, I wasn't really taught, you know, I didn't have so many different types of people that I interacted with back home in high school. And then coming here with so many different types of personalities and, you know, backgrounds, you know, I didn't know that people could actually be so mean. Yeah. And then I didn't know how to handle that. Yeah. And then I thought it was a reflection of, did I cause them to be mean? Like, was that actually my fault? So yeah. And then I've always wanted to do kickboxing. And when I joined Pure Fitness, I saw that like you were here, like downstairs. Pure Fitness really got me like here. Yeah. And like, cause I wanted a nice gym. Like I did struggle with body dysmorphia. I struggled with, you know, eating. I thought too much about, you know, what I was putting into my body to an unhealthy extent. And the gym really saved me in that way. I joined Pure when it was, what was it? Powerhouse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I joined Pure when it was Powerhouse, and then they became Pure, and then you moved in. And then that's when I found you guys. And I was like, I've always wanted to do kickboxing. It's scary. I mean, I've a theme that I've had in my whole life is I just do things by myself. And I think that's really helped me grow. But I was just like, I want to do this. Like, I've always wanted to do it. No one really had any interest in doing it with me. But I knew it was something that could help me, like, gain the confidence, like, eventually to work towards that. So, yeah, I was just like, fuck it. Like,
Which is so incredible because, like, you know what I mean? That is one thing that you've always done is, you know, you have this, like, ability to go do things by yourself. And we'll get into the other cooler things that you've done as well. But, like, you know, when you messaged me, I thought it was a fucking scam. You know, you like, you know, get a beautiful girl saying, "Oh, I wanted you to train me. You know what I mean? Send me $500,000 across that. I'll come to your gym." You know, it's always like you never know when you get a DM, but you straight up DM me or message me. Somehow you got in touch with me and you were like, "Hey, you know, I'm interested in doing this. This is what I want to go." And you showed up, and Yeah, man, I really didn't know until once we got, a month into our sessions where like, okay, she's like, she kind of needs just a little, I knew you were there with it. Like you had so many like these great qualities, personality wise and stuff like that. But it was like, we just got to get her off that little, in my mind, it's this about me. And, I'm not good enough to let's shift gears just a little bit. If we could just change the trajectory, like when you change the degree from leaving in a plane from California and you're headed to DC, but if you change it just 2 degrees or 1 degree, you'll end up in Florida or something like kind of that mentality and it worked. But when you talk about body dysmorphia, I mean, like I remember for the longest time, you know what I mean? Like and we were talking about this yesterday, we would run in the fucking heat of August and you were doing it in a hoodie and not trying to cut weight. You were like, no, you know what I mean? Like this is not what it's about. And then what I remember is, there was like 2 sparring sessions that you had that like you broke down. Oh yeah.
I still remember them too.
One of them I remember was upstairs. I think the other one was downstairs, but I'm not sure if the one was downstairs.
I think it was.
But and not to jump all over the place, but that was something incredible too. I want to highlight is like when you signed up with us, we were like in kind of that gray space of we didn't have a place to go. So like you came in the gym and you saw the mats, you saw the bags, was just like this fucked up unmatching mat underneath it. The drywall's not finished. You know what I mean? It's freezing cold or it's super hot. We don't have any AC or any central air. And then like there's wires exposed. Like it was so fucking ghetto. Like the story of my life.
An unused garage.
Correct. So like for you to come in that space and like I'm gonna trust this guy and these people and let's get in here, and do it. That's pretty remarkable in itself. But going back, like. You had a couple moments where like it was like you got hit pretty hard, I think in the stomach or something one time, and you were like, and I know it wasn't the stomach that hurt you, it was just like the emotional pressure of what we've all been through in combat sports, especially when you're trying to spar and fight like you were, and it was like that was a one day that you like completely just like leveled up.
Right. I remember like, that I was sparring Louis. Yeah. I was sparring Louis.
Our 3rd champion.
He was at that point where he was not living around here, but he would come around sometimes. He wasn't around all the time. Mm-hmm. And I was sparring with him and I think he hit me in the liver or the stomach. And I just remember like it hurt, but not to the point where like I broke down. Yeah. I just had this rush of emotion, just like all the pressure, I think, of just life sometimes that I had at that moment, with school, the expectations that I had on myself from me, the expectations from my family, just all coming out with that release of pressure. And you just sat me in the corner and you're like, you need to sit down right here. You're like, have it out, breathe. Like you gave me some breathing techniques, but you're like, you need to just have a moment. And I just remember sitting and like, I will always remember the corner of the gym that I sat in. It's like crisscross applesauce, just like crying. The girl crying in the corner, like, don't mind her. She does that sometimes.
And they were like, oh, is she okay? I'm like, she all right. Like, let her sit, let her get it out. But that was a moment for you that forever changed you. Right. And looking at it then, like you just talked about, I didn't see it until now or, later on of how that leveled you up because, that's the thing and the beauty about combat sports, especially when you train and you get in there and you actually like do it. You can't cheat that. You can't cheat that rawness. You can't cheat the emotional, just everything that it gives you, right? You're battling you. It's never the fighter. It's always you're battling you. And I have so many times where like, I'll stop some of my guys or gals that want to spar and I'm like, you're not sparring today. And they're like, what's wrong, coach? I'm like, bro, your energy when you walked in, you're going to get hurt or you're going to hurt somebody. And, I know we're in the hurt business, but you're just not there. And I just remember you coming back and like, you shook it off. Like you were good. Like, you oh no, that wasn't no big deal. But I think it was like a turning point for you. Because shortly after, I don't remember the exact timeline, but I remember it wasn't too long after that. That's when you decided that you were going to go ahead and switch up your major.
Yeah.
Disappoint the world.
No.
So for those, I want you to talk about that. So like, you decided to just not be a doctor. And that was like your plan this whole time.
It was hard. Yeah. It was such a hard decision. One, because I really did like science. I felt connected to it. I'm a very curious person. I love to learn. And I think science is just so cool. It's so cool. And it's endless. But I was just like, this just doesn't feel right. I've always been a gut person too. Like I go with my gut. And like, if I ignore it for too long, then I become unhappy. My body changes. And I was like, my gut is telling me this is not right. I couldn't sign up for the MCAT, which is the test you need to take to get into med school. I looked into some other routes and I was like, this just isn't it. And then I called my parents, and I remember I was working at Adam's Tap House and I call them while I'm in the dining room and I'm like, Mom, Dad, like, I am not going to med school. I'm not doing it. And they say, you're a quitter. You're a failure. All you do is quit. You quit when you do things. I just remember that. Like, I cried so hard. I remember telling you, and it's so hard coming from people, because I do love my parents. Like, they are still my biggest supporters. They definitely calmed down a bit. At least you can say, like, my daughter's a lawyer, so I guess it's not that bad. But it was really hard because, again, I didn't really have an identity in college. I was searching for that. And that's why I lacked so much self-confidence. And I thought that who I was supposed to be what my mom wanted me to be, but not what I wanted to be. So choosing myself in that moment was extremely hard for me. And then, disappointing the people that love you, it was hard, but it's just one of those things that I was like, my gut is telling me I have to do this. Yeah. So I have to do, and I can't ignore it.
Well, I can assure you, meeting your parents and talking with them, that it wasn't a disappointment. And I will say this from this aspect, you know what I mean? Because I am a father and I do have children. There's so much fear that parents have, you know what I mean, with their kids. And that was just strictly fear on your parents' behalf. They were, freaking out. You're in a faraway land. They only know you for all the things that they see, like you quit and all that stuff. So they're always going to have, most parents are always going to have that, just what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Right.
Only because they're so worried that you're going to follow in our footsteps and things like that. So that was definitely fear. So I know they're not disappointed in you, because they were, lit up like Christmas trees when I met them, and they were just so proud, and they talked about how proud they were. But I can imagine, that feeling that you had. What is crazy is, you could hear this podcast right now and you could judge this from a negative space, right? You could say, this young girl, gets to go to college and she's got these first world problems. And well, oh, wow, you went from a doctor to a lawyer. Like, it's very easy to sit here and judge that from that space, right? But what you're talking about and what you went through is something that every single one of us go through. I don't care what your cup of tea is. I don't care what advantages and disadvantages you have in life. Like, having that disappointing feeling, having that lack of identity, having all the insecurities, going out into places that you're not used to, like, that's just like a fucking big deal. And people will look on the outside and look from the outside in and say, well, that must be nice and all that bullshit statements that I hate, but they won't look internal like, wait a minute, you know what? I was struggling trying to get this manager job, at Target.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being a cashier and I want to be a manager, but yet I won't speak up and go after it and put the hours in and put the time in, because I don't think I'm good enough. And I don't think, what if I disappoint everybody? And I'm only at Target. Like, there's so many things that people can relate to that. And I think it's very huge that what you're sharing and you're going through, especially being a female, because, females don't want to talk about this stuff.
No.
Men don't want to talk about this stuff, right? Like, everybody wants to play it off like, everything's fine. Don't look at me. I'm good. Everything's fine. And here you go. You had that change in your career. You had that moment in combat sports. You had all these like growth moments, right? I don't remember if it was after or before. I want to say it was after when you decided to become a lawyer, but I could be wrong. The day we ran and you took that dance sweater off and you ran your sports bra, right?
Right.
And it wasn't very revealing, guys. So relax. You know what I mean? It was just a normal gym approved.
Normal Nike sports bra.
It was gym approved. But what was that feeling like? Because listen, man, I grew up a chubby kid. Okay. When I get in shape, and the only thing that I look at me as being in shape is abs. Right. Everybody wants these big muscles. I got these horrible looking arms that don't match my body. You know what I mean? Everybody makes fun of them. They will strangle you, but and knock you out. But like, at the end of the day, like, I think of like the perfect body's ripped abs. Right. That's what I get, and that's something I've always fought to get, and I have to work very hard to get. So like, when I got those the first time, that's all I wanted to do, was just be so proud of myself. I can only imagine it's somewhere close to the feeling that you had that day. Like, what was that day?
I was always taught that beauty was, Taylor, you have to be skinny, pretty, and blonde. That was my idea of beauty, growing up. And especially nowadays with social media, it's so hard.
Wait a minute. Have you seen these big booty Latinas out here? wait a minute. Who told you this message? Who told you this message? 'Cause there are some beautiful. I love my wife, but I tell you, I appreciate a nice big booty Latina. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is coming from my mother.
I'm just playing.
I love my mom, but Marianne. But so it was hard for me because again, I had no self-confidence. This is what I thought beauty was. This was the standard that I grew up with. And I didn't think I molded into it. So I felt so uncomfortable in my body. I was working so hard in the gym. I was eating what I thought was right, probably not as right as I thought. And I just had no confidence. And I thought I was like, just not, I was uncomfortable in my own skin. And it's not a good feeling to be like sitting down, standing up, and you're so, I thought people saw my rolls or my fat arms, or when in reality, people saw something different. But to be able to take my sweatshirt off, which seems like such a small step to other people, was so big for me because I've never worn a crop top.
Yeah.
I've never wore, spaghetti string like tank tops because I didn't like my arms. So like being able to run with, no shirt on and just my sports bra was a huge step for me, because not only was it not worrying about what other people thought of me, but it was internal. It was being comfortable to run, being comfortable with the way my body felt in that way. Because not only having a big sweatshirt on, you're kind of hidden metaphorically from other people, but I'm not thinking of my body constantly when I have my big sweatshirt on. So it's like, it's double-sided, I'm not thinking about what other people are seeing, but I'm not thinking about like how my body is over analyzing how my body's feeling when I'm running, feeling the jiggle.
Kind of, okay. Yes. So kind of like, if you have a self-consciousness of like a jiggle, or you have a self-conscious of like, this thing's hanging out the wrong way, or
you're
something
like hyper, you're like zoned in on all the wrong things
while you're covered up in your safety blanket, your sweatshirt, so to speak.
Right. Or just when I'm not covered up, being able to being able to be present in our run and not hyper focused on, maybe I have some skin that's jiggling. That's completely normal and beautiful. But to me, it's like, I shouldn't be jiggling. Like, like I should be super tight. I'm not skinny enough to wear, just a sports bra in public. So it's like two-sided, not being present.
That's interesting you say that, because that's something that that I never thought about, right? Is that, you know what I mean? I've known about the insecurities of what my body's doing and when and stuff like that. I always got like this slouch with me, right? So thing that just, I've always done it. I've always just slouched, and it's my family slouches and stuff like that. So my posture is one of my insecurities. I always try to pull my shoulders back and try to sit up in a chair and things like that. So like not worrying about that and thinking about that because you're in the moment is huge and extremely liberating as well. You know what I mean? Considering like, you're out here running with, I think with 2 or 3 guys, right?
Yeah, it was a group of us. Right. I think we always did it either like before or after we trained. And we had a nice, slow, long run. I wasn't a runner, but you always made it like, go your pace. We knew the route. And I always felt comfortable, too, with the guys in our gym, which was a huge part of it. I never felt judged or uncomfortable. Like, everyone in the gym was just so friendly, so warming. And that
empowering.
Was empowering.
Our guys and gals will gas you out. You want to feel good about yourself. Come out here. Well, we also, you better have some thick skin because we'll bust your balls. But we also want to, we're going to gas you up.
We have some humor.
Yeah, we do. I think this is so incredible coming from you, and those of you who are listening. I hope that you go to the YouTube channel or to the Facebook page and see the video, because, and I'm not trying to make this awkward, but I've always thought you were just one of the most beautiful people I've met, like physically, appearing wise.
Thank you.
And to hear like how much self-consciousness you've had and how much internal battle that you've struggled with is just, I know that somebody can relate to this, and you don't have to be a chick to relate to it either. Like, dudes, like there's a lot of guys out here that, I know that they don't feel comfortable in their skin.
It's probably even worse for men, because at least women, I feel like there's a whole community that talks about it. But for men, it's really, I don't know if there's a community out there that talks about body dysmorphia.
Well, men get sold on this Andrew Tate ideology where, you know, you got to have money, you got to have status, you got to have, you know, you got to be like this. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. You know, my views on Andrew Tate have been across the board. When I first heard of the guy, I was like, whatever, and I fucking didn't care. There's a lot of things that Andrew Tate says that I do agree with. I just don't agree with the way he goes about it. And again, you know, to me, it's all social media influencers.
Right.
You know what I mean? So nothing. I kind of shifted my perspective on, you know, him hearing some of the things he's talked about, and, you know, actually him being, you know, right on some topics, but I don't really necessarily agree with some things. But it's that Andrew Tate kind of philosophy where, you know, you've got to have cars, you've got to have money, you've got to have this. You know, listen, I mean, I've done well in the women department in my life, and, you know, I've got a beautiful wife and wonderful family, and I got 3 daughters, and money and status was not what got me where I need to be. And I am not the most handsome looking guy. Listen, I got an old saying, if I can keep her giggling, that ass will be jiggling, right? So, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's how I got my wife, right? But no, at the end of the day, I think it comes with personality. I think it comes with, you know, being straightforward, but
genuine.
When you're sold on the genuine authenticity, but when you're sold on this ideology that you have to be something just like beauty,
right?
It can be a self-conscious insecurity to men where they think that they have to be whatever they're not, you know what I mean? But I think that's fantastic, man. I think that you being able to overcome that and really find that on your own. You know,
I still struggle with it though too.
It's always gonna be.
It's
there.
this, you know, it's a forever thing. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever be completely, I guess, quote unquote, healed.
Yeah.
But I am a lot better than I was, and definitely, I mean, Salisbury, like being here, and then SBY, that was the catalyst to all of this growth. I mean, that's why I say, like, I'm going to see my mentor, because truly, like, meeting you is the catalyst to everything that I've done since then. I'm not sure, you know, we can't like predict what would have happened if not. I'm sure I believe in myself and I would have still gotten to where I am. It might have just been a lot harder and a lot bumpier of a path. And it's been bumpy since, I mean, the path that I was on already, but being at SBY and being challenged in the way that kickboxing challenges you. I know we talked about emotional, like people think it's just like, you know, we do it for exercise, but I did it to also learn so much about myself because I pushed myself in so many different ways that weightlifting can't push you. I'm sure that's why people do long distance running. You just learn so much about yourself mentally, what your body's capable of, and you connect with yourself in such a special way that you can't do in a lot of other sports, I don't think.
And I think I agree with you. And I think also the other element is it teaches you really how to lose. It teaches you how to lose, and it teaches you that those losses that you're quote unquote losing are not as big as you think they are, that they are part of this process. So what I associate that with you is like when you were in law school, you were, you know, working at the state's attorney's office, you were trying to get, you know, past the bar, you were studying, you know, you were in a relationship, you had dogs, you had all these fucking responsibilities. I think you were still
I was waitressing.
Yep.
I worked full time during the day.
Yep.
I went to law school 4 days a week at night. I waitressed on the weekends. I had a townhome with my ex-boyfriend. We had 3 dogs that I helped take care of, a whole house that I helped take care of. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot.
And you were still having to study.
Yeah. And I study, you know, study and do homework outside
and work
of.
out. Yeah. And I would talk to you, and I mean, dude, like, yo, if you guys want to know a fucking person that grinds her ass off, this is right here an example, because I mean, you had your whole days methodically scheduled out. There wasn't no downtime. You couldn't come visit. Anytime you got a chance, it was a very brief window, which, you know, we were grateful of. But yo, you really put your fucking nose to the grindstone and went after what you wanted and silenced any doubters or any critics or any voices in your head to say that this is not the route you were supposed to be on. And that was right there, you know, that I know was a combination of things. And one of those things was what you learned in this gym, because, you know, not taking credit for your hard work. I just know that you learned, one of those values you learned was, okay, so all these losses and all these reps are going to get me where I'm going to be.
You have to fail.
Dude, it's crazy.
And people don't like calling it failing. And I understand like words are a huge role in like how we talk to ourselves, but failing isn't bad. Like failing is good. You have to learn those lessons. You have to say, oh, it didn't work out the way I did it this way, but let me try a different way. If this is the end result that I want, but the journey I failed along the way, like maybe I can take different steps, you know?
Well, I mean, you pass and fail papers in school.
Right.
It doesn't mean your final grade.
No.
It doesn't mean if you don't walk or not. You know what I mean? It's a part of it. Failure is a part of it. And we've become such a society where everybody's so fucking sensitive about, you know what I mean, and think everything's such a negative. Look, if you're fucking overweight, you're fat. Okay. If you're malnutrition, you need to add weight. You're skinny. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to be derogatory about these words. I never would talk to somebody and talk down upon them. And I rarely even say fat or skinny, right? Ever, like only if I'm emphasizing a point. But like we have to be able to understand that, hey, I'm not where I need to be. And this ain't got nothing to do with body dysmorphia or insecurities. This has to do with like, hey, I'm not going to be so fucking ultra sensitive about these things. I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to go ahead and fail and it's going to struggle. I'm going to go through some very difficult times. And I might have to put 80, 90, 100 hours a week doing this, but it's going to pay off, you know? And I think we're all just surrounded by a bunch of fucking pussies that just...
You have to make yourself uncomfortable. If you are comfortable all the time, you're not going to grow. And that's one thing I learned very early on, like in college, maybe even in high school. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to, and that's the only reason how you're going to grow. And again, like when someone would say something to me that maybe hit hard to me to begin with, and I'm sure you've said, nothing comes off the top of my mind, but you were a coach to me, you're a mentor, you say some hard things to me, and I don't like everything you say to me. But I take it, what you say, I think about it, and then I say, is this true? Do I need to reflect on this? Or maybe we have a conversation about it. You know, it's not necessarily like, oh, my feelings are hurt. Right. Let me go cry about it. You know, if you had some like critique about like my eating, I remember we talked a lot about, you helped me with like nutrition, like you need to do this and this. I
think you weren't eating enough.
Yeah, I don't take it personally. You know, like he's right. Like I need to change what I'm doing. I don't internalize it and say like, I'm wrong. I've been doing this so wrong. I don't focus on the past. I internalize it. I change. And that's...
But so many do.
You grow.
So many do. So many take the shit personal. They think that it's about them. And, you know, I've been saying this a lot lately. It's like, dude, like, get over yourself. Like, right. Like out of all, like if you want to go biblical with it, we're like the earth is like a speck of sand on a beach, right? Compared to the universe. And we're like a speck of sand on the beach compared to the earth. And like, it's so incredible to me. Like, get over yourself. Why do we think that the world is revolving around us? Right. And I had a great religious conversation regarding this. Is like, you know, why are we so thoughtful that the world revolves around us? Why does the United States think that it's God's people? Why does the earth think it's the center of the universe? Why do, you know, with all these vastness of things, get over yourself. Who are you? But at the same time, a couple of different actions and commitments can make you be the one that can change the course of everybody's life.
I was going to say, it's so double-sided.
Yes.
People need to get over themselves, but at the same time, you are the only one to control your happiness. Happiness comes within. So we need to get over ourselves in the fact of like, we can't be complaining all the time. But again, we are important and we need to take care of ourselves, but we can't, like, it is not your job to make me happy. Yeah. It is my own job.
100%.
And in that way, we need to get over ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's so double-sided. Yep. It's like a paradox, you know?
And if you do, you may be able to change the course of humanity. Like one thing you could say to someone or do to someone could be the one idea, the one invention, the one thought process that could, you know, go Steve Jobs type impact.
So it's true. Like you can say from a distance, like, oh, it must be nice. She's a lawyer. She went from wanting to be a doctor to wanting to be a lawyer. Yeah, it must be nice. But you didn't see everything I went through along the way. And I worked my ass off. Every single second.
You still are working your ass off. It's not, look, guys, when you pass the bar, it don't fucking stop. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'm a lawyer now. Now let's, you know, like you've got a lot of shit that uphill battle. Let's switch gears. I completely agree with you. I want to switch gears. We talked about doing things alone. And you've always been a part of that. I just love that about you. You went to Egypt. Tell me about that. Tell us about that experience, right? Like
again, so, you know, happiness comes within.
And you didn't, hold on, and to cut you off, I don't think you planned this very well. Like this was kind
that was a last minute thing. Yeah.
Hey, where you want to go this weekend? I'm going to Egypt. I'll see y'all in a fucking week.
I've always wanted to travel. I've had this bug to just see the world. And I was like, well, I'm single. All my friends are in relationships. It's a lot to ask someone to go to Egypt with you. You know, it's a lot of money. Not necessarily cheap. So I was like, why am I waiting for someone to do it with me? I am perfectly capable of doing this by myself. I could die tomorrow. I could die next month.
Yeah.
And I would never be able to do the things that I want to do because I was waiting for someone to do them with me. So I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm just going to go. I can do it. I can do anything I want on my own. And everyone can do everything they want on their own. So I went to Egypt. It was an amazing experience. It's not necessarily the safest country for a woman if you want to like walk around the streets. If you've ever been to Europe, you can just walk around, go to a restaurant, feel pretty safe. Yeah. Egypt is different because it's a different religion. Most of the country is Muslim. There are different, types of practices. I think there's like 2 different types of Muslim people who practice there. 2 different like sects of that. But it's a beautiful country, and the people there are so nice. I mean, they make their money from tourism, so they want to make sure you're having a good time. Yeah. They want to make sure you're feeling safe. The woman who approached me right outside the airport, I had just planned to Uber to my my Airbnb, and she's like, let me set you up a ride for back when you come to the airport. She texted me the next day. She's like, hi Taylor, like, how are you doing? Do you need anything? My guys were amazing. I mean, I still talk to them on, social media when I have the chance. I follow them. I see like they're getting married. They're like, they have other people visiting, and just learning about the culture. Egypt is so different from America, and the people over there live so differently. Their reality is different, and I think that's something that we lose here, where we think everyone else lives the way that we live over here, and it's just not the case. Like,
what's the difference in the reality? A couple of examples. So.
I mean, well, just the way that like the city's structured, but I think, and religion does play a huge part. Sure. But like my tour guide Rami, the nicest guy. He was so sweet. And we're sitting down in the middle of the desert having lunch. And I'm just asking him just about what it's like growing up in Egypt. You have your parents either set you up with,
excuse me.
They either set you up with someone to marry, or some parents allow you to date. So there's that. You don't really have the option. And then he was talking about, as a Muslim man, he can't go to other countries. He just can't leave Egypt. He can go to some other, like, I think maybe other Muslim countries, but like he couldn't just come to America. They will deny him at his interview. He has to interview to come to America. He has to interview to go to somewhere like Italy. I remember him saying he wants to go to Italy so bad. He has to be married. And then just like his view is, he thought social media gave women too much freedoms. And that was his reality. Like that's how they're taught. That's just how he grew up. And having that genuine conversation with him, I could tell that he had no malintent. Right. It was just, that's how he was raised. Yeah. That's the views that he was raised in. And I wasn't trying to change his opinion. I was just trying to learn about him, like learn what he experienced, over in Egypt. So
that's incredible. Yeah. We don't think about the things that we take for granted at all. Like, I think Saudi Arabia just allowed women to drive, you know what I mean? And now, women are able to drive, and that's something that, like, my daughter's driving, right. A couple of my daughters were driving illegally before they were 16, right?
But I think it's a whole thing of, we think we need to change other people's opinions to be more like us. And we don't always need to do that. There are definitely, some human rights issues out there that aren't great, that we can recognize in, the Middle East. But there are just normal people like us who live their day to day, and it's interesting to learn about them, and it's good to hear them and then share our experiences, but we don't need to change them, Yeah,
I think that the Western civilization, America, Canada, I think we spend way too much time trying to get everybody to convert to the way that we do things. And, ironically enough, we're only 250 years old, right? So it's like, right. It's cool because we have the oldest and longest standing unedited constitution in the world. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we have what I understand is we have the longest unedited, unchanged constitution standing in the world.
I'm a lawyer. I should know that.
Going up against. Now I'm recycling verbiage that Patrick Bet-David said. I watch his podcast a lot, and I think he knows what he's doing. He's got part owner of the Yankees. He sold his company for $1 billion. Like, he's got great values. But yeah, every constitution out there has been edited, been changed. You know what I mean? And we've had that. But that's pretty cool if you think about like what it stood for 250 years. But we're only 250 years. Other constitutions have been going on for,
right.
thousands of years. So
and also like some change is good. So we definitely have laws in the Constitution that don't really apply anymore just because we have so much technology, and back then they were riding horses and trading and building railroads, but
and owning slaves.
Not good.
Not a thing. We don't own people.
Yeah, but I mean,
Jesus.
for other countries, life is just so different. And it's not fair for us to just be so judgmental all the time, because we definitely have things that we need to work on over here. And over in other countries, like in Italy, when I went to Italy, the family is such an important part of their daily life. Like families live so close to each other. They have so many networking. Like you have like a mom and pop shop down the road, and you have grandma's house over here, and they have that leisure time in the middle of the day. And it's like, we could take a note out of their book of like, we work. I think in the purple room that I'm staying in, there's a thing on the wall that's the paradox of life, where, we have so much technology, but we have less communication. Yeah. We have, I honestly forget the rest of it. It's nice, but it's like a long, it's hanging up on the wall.
Yeah.
But it's true, we're so busy, but we have less time or something like that. We could take some notes out of other countries' books for sure. And they could definitely take notes from us, but
I miss the character of cities. I miss when cities had character. Now it seems like they've all got that, chain type of architecture, restaurants. It's all kind of the same. It's the same, they all modernized. They have the same stores and all that. Like, I love going down a good downtown and just seeing like all these boutiques of different things and different people and different
like the
places.
old brownstones.
Yeah, man. And just seeing like different stores of different things that people have that are owned. One of the coolest places I've ever been to was when I went to London. There was a cereal store, and they had every single cereal ever made. You could try it, you could eat it. Like, it was just the coolest thing right there. And it's just like such a unique,
right.
It's probably not a business that's going to make you millions of dollars, but it's also a business that, I visited while I was in London from America. I looked it up, you know what I mean? Or my wife looked it up. She knew she wanted to go see it. And that's what we visited and checked out. And I just think that's like such a hidden thing that we don't have anymore.
Yeah, I feel like there's just such a loss of community nowadays. Yeah. Like, as a single person living in the city, I just moved to the city. That's what I'm seeking. Like, I want to find a community. But so much around community right now, it's just drinking. Yeah. Like, you go to the bars. Yeah. And when you are going, like when I was in Italy, like, community is going to the city center and just, hanging out, reading a book. There's people around. That's what a lot of the people do. Yeah. They take that break during the middle of the day. You go to a coffee shop. And so I'm really like, it's hard to find nowadays.
And and you sit down, when you eat, you sit down for a couple of hours. You're not shuffled in and chauffeured out where it's like, hurry up and get your order. You come in, you order your drink, and then you get an appetizer and bread, and you hang out for a little while. I mean, it's a lot of rush. It's a really breaking bread with each other and getting to talk to each other and get to know each other and things like that. So I think it's so freaking cool, man. Dan, this podcast flew by. I knew it was going to, and I knew we were going to talk about everything. What kind of law do you practice?
I do civil defense.
Okay.
So I'm on the civil side. I'm a defense attorney.
Okay.
Mainly defending insurance companies.
Gotcha. And is that your ideal, law that you want to, down the road, or is that?
I'm not sure. I have a strong pull internally to work for the government.
Yeah.
I used to work in criminal law as a law clerk before I graduated law school, and I loved it. I don't see myself going back there right now. Maybe in the future. I had this whole idea that I wanted to work in like national security law, and I still think that's a possibility for me. Right now, I am just getting experience, learning how to be an attorney, because you have, besides the content, it is a different world of how to interact with other attorneys, how to negotiate. It's truly just different. Yeah. They can't teach you that in law school. So I think I'm just going to get a couple of years in, learn what I'm doing now, learn how to be an attorney. all the ins and outs, and then maybe we'll see where it goes from there. I know I want to live in Italy for a year, so like finding a job where I could do that. I don't know. It's kind of just like I don't really have a plan. I have like a stencil.
Yeah.
But if I go outside the lines, it's okay.
Yeah, 100%. What else would you like to do? I know we talked about it last night. You know what I mean? You talked about educating and teaching and
yeah,
stuff like
I really want to get into a space where part-time I could do adjunct professorships, which is when you are at a law school or at a college or a community college and you just teach like a class, maybe 1 or 2 classes. So you're not a full-time faculty, but I really have a urge to want to give back to the younger generation because so much that I loved all my professors. I was really lucky. I had good professors at Salisbury. I had great professors at law school. And part of that is they're teaching you, but the other part is they are really like guides for you. I mean, I had you outside of school, but I had Dr. Hunter was my advisor at Salisbury. And then I had a connection at UB with a judge who was an adjunct, Judge Skirty. He was a really great mentor for me. And then actually one of my prosecutor friends who also adjunct professor, Adam Lippy, he was a professor, but he was also a life, mentor too. Yeah. So and I want to be that for other people. I feel like I have so much to share and I want to share it. I want to help other people. Life is difficult and everyone's past different, but at the same time, we all kind of go through similar things. Yeah. And I can understand the struggle that younger people are going through in our generation. I mean, it's so hard being told you have to be this and this and this. It's like, what do you want to do? Yeah. And I want to help other people figure that out.
And I definitely think that applies more so, for your age bracket and generation, where people are just kind of lost right now. They just need all the help they can. I mean, we've been lost all our lives, but I think identity is a big thing. I think like purpose is a big thing. Direction is a big thing. Ambition is a big thing. Like these are big things that we're in deficit in, you know what I mean? In that generation in our country. Man, that was awesome. So like, let's wrap it up with this. What would you say right now to like somebody who is just, figuring it out, right? Whether they're in college, whether they're a young professional, whether they're just working at, a couple of jobs, a part-time job, based upon what you've learned so far in your 27 years of life and experience, and more so what you've learned in the past 10 years, to be really narrowed down, somebody that's just confused and don't know where to start, don't know what to do, you know what I mean? And doesn't really have a stencil or how to color out those lines. What would you say to them?
Well, first thing is read books, because if you don't know where to start, books can always help you. I read a ton of self-help books. I think they're great. I see so many here that I have on my bookshelf. But second is stop filling up other people's cups so much and fill up your own. That's where it all starts. If you want to help people, that's great, but you can only help people as much as you're helping yourself. If you are out of energy, the help that you give isn't going to be, great. So you need to fill up your own cup first, and then you can worry about other people. But it's important to make sure you are okay before you make sure other people are okay, because then you can give them quality help that you want to be able to give.
I love it. Well, Taylor, listen, you have a lot to be proud of, you know what I mean, with everything that you've done and overcome, you know what I mean? I'm certainly proud of you. I'm very thankful to know you. I've really gained so much appreciation and respect for you post-college, just because I've watched you just blossom into this woman that was nothing like who I met and nothing who left, you know what I mean? When you, when COVID happened, I think that was... Did you come back for like a week or not? Or didn't you come back or something? I
came back and then no one was here.
Yeah. You were
and
gone.
So I moved home.
Yeah. So, COVID kind of nailed everybody with a different life changing. And you weren't this. You weren't that, who you've become, and just watching you and talking to you and keeping up with you. And then obviously we've got a great friendship and a lifelong lasting friendship. I know, but it's just, man, it's awesome to watch you just be you and impact this world the way you are. So thank you for, being a part of my life and teaching me things, but also be very proud of yourself because you've earned it. So.
Thank you.
If anybody needs law advice or anybody, so, you know, I know you don't have a business or whatever, but if you want to give out your contact ways of getting in touch with you, you can. If not, you know what I mean? People can.
I don't even know my Instagram handle. Like, I think it's like Taylor Hughes _
Okay. All right.
I'm not even sure. Maybe 2 underscores.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Taylor Hugheses out there.
Yeah. Well, how about this? How about we all just look for, and I'll put the page up. We'll look forward to your podcast.
Yeah. You can tag me and then people can find me there.
All right, good. Because I got a feeling that you're going to be starting a podcast soon.
Maybe.
Know what I mean? You should.
I'm a yapper.
You talked about a yapper. You talked about it when we hung out on your graduation night. You know what I mean? If you don't remember, but you graduated, you and your friends were like, we should do a podcast.
Yeah.
It's kind of thrown out there. So whatever you do, I think you're going to be great at it. So.
Thank you.
Well, guys, that is another episode of Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. Like we've asked all y'all, please like and subscribe. If you got value out of this episode, please share it with somebody who you think could utilize it. And again, leave us a comment and leave us a review. The reviews are critical in us getting higher on the search engine. We love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how we can improve. Until next time, guys, what are you doing today to become a champion?